Hi, everybody. This is the show with Ron, and we've got another day of adding some context and commentary to headlines so we can understand a little bit about what's behind things rather than just somebody drops some bombs on somebody. Because there's always a backstory to it, and that's what we do here. So, but before we get to that, we might as well just look at this stuff about the good economy. You know, we've been seeing stuff about the good economy, the bad economy. The media has been kind of running some interference for the administration by talking about the vibe economy altogether. They came up with this phrase to explain why things were much better than people thought they were. And again, we have jobs roaring, we have accelerating economy, pay jumps, a Trump advisor coming out and saying that Biden's doing a good job on this, stocks hitting a high. Now, we know why this really is, and it's because of the preset Fed cuts that are already in the pipeline for this year. And they're coming in. I don't know if they said March or May, something like that. There'll be a couple staggered cuts, and this is to preset the economy so there can't be a recession this year. So economy is a difficult thing to predict, and this year we've got really some good thoughts that the economy is going to be great. It's going to continue on. We'll never have to have a recession again as long as we keep spending. And then we have other people who do feel the doom and gloom of inflation and the homelessness at an all-time high, these sorts of things, and way too long for a recession, a correction in the economy that's way overdue. But it's not likely to happen this year, an election year. It's all fixed already. Now let me check something here. Got a new camera set up today. Everything's falling apart. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what the big story is, USA bombs Iran targets, but not bombs Iran. Just like I said, I think in the last 2 days in a row, trying to explain about the idea that Iran has a demographic bubble of young people who are very ready to protest about progressive issues, and that Iran itself, despite what you would see from their foreign policy and their terrorism and interference in other countries, Iran is a very cosmopolitan cultural powerhouse of a country. And it's thought that if we just leave it alone, they will change internally, and the small cadre of people that control foreign policy in the government will inevitably be pushed out. But if we strike them directly, that will only help the hardliners. And so again, we have Biden doing a very doctrinaire thing here that follows the policy. He's striking Iranian-connected targets, but not in Iran, for that long-standing reason of not hitting Iran directly, and for not giving Iran what they want, really, because all of this uptick in attacks, the drone attacks there in Jordan, the attacks on the bottom of the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen against the shipping there in the Suez Canal, and even threats from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon to attack Israel. These are all attempts to widen the war and test Western resolve in backing Israel, which at the same time is sort of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They were the one wronged in the hostage taking, but in the way they've conducted the war and in the reaction in the West hasn't been so positive. So other countries that are conducting big wars, like Russia, would be very happy for the widening war and the deterioration of public opinion about war in the West, because They want to keep the U.S. and NATO and its allies stretched very thin, and they want to keep the U.S. public not willing to dump more money into these conflicts. Same thing with China. China would like to see a distracted U.S. because they have their own ambitions in their backyard. They're sort of hemmed in now by the West there. And this is a once really in a lifetime. Has it been this kind of a convergence of situations for quite a long time that are causing this? So here we have, maybe just look at this a little bit. You see even the scale of this. This is a pretty large scale. Besides just the fact that the U.S. wants to retaliate for killing its soldiers, this is a demonstration of resolve to Iran that it won't be easy to widen the war in the way it wants to. That the U.S. is pushing back in a big way, but not in a way that draws more countries into the conflict. So this is very interesting. It'll be interesting to me, if any, how many actual Iranian personnel or big personnel are killed or assassinated. And all of this reminds me of this situation. This is if you remember at early 2020, this was a Trump president thing where he went after and killed specifically this Iranian general who was acting quite openly in Iraq. And I could talk for a long time on some of this to explain it, but a long time ago, the idea was that if the United States invaded Iraq, Iran would cheer them on because they fought a big war, and the Iranians are Persians, the Iraqis are largely Arabs, and that there was a divide. But instead what happened is Iran went in big to gain influence in Iraq, and did gain that influence, and that blindsided the U.S., who completely miscalculated what would happen in Iraq if they invaded, or the worst things that could happen in Iraq if they invaded. Okay, we jump forward to this situation, and again, the context or the significance of this relates a little bit to the line that the U.S. is walking now, because why the killing of this general is so significant, because it harks back to an old, I would say, conservative or neocon idea that went all the way back in the early 90s, when the U.S. was trying to retaliate against Saddam Hussein. And they were very careful not to kill the generals or big-time personnel who were suspected of committing or planning terrorist acts against its United States. Instead, they would bomb them late at night. So only a janitor would be killed in these late night raids. And some of the neocons at this time, or conservatives, said, we should be not afraid to strike back at the people who do this, as opposed to just killing some poor schmuck who's cleaning the floors in the middle of the night, because those guys will continue to cause these acts. So the killing of this guy was the culmination of a very long-held neocon train of thought. Because it was said, well, Iran is really mad at us now, and they're trying to kill us and attack us and do all these things against us. But we don't dare strike any of their top people. Then they'll really, really be mad. So when I heard that this guy was killed, I was sort of disturbed because, see, I'm always looking at the context of things, and I knew that killing was a culmination of an old neocon idea and a spin to a new concept, a new way of doing things. But on the other hand, I was quite curious to see what huge, blowback there would be beyond the normal. And I don't think there really was. So in any event, that's a kind of aside to this situation where I'd be interested to know as this works out, were there any more targeted killings? I would doubt it, because I think Biden is following a more traditional U.S. foreign policy. It's not really even a democratic traditional foreign policy. It really is a kind of a Clinton-esque foreign policy that came from Reagan. Reagan reset a lot of the way the U.S. foreign policy was going to be conducted, the U.S. policing overseas, and Clinton continued that, thus setting a precedent for Democratic administrations. Of course, we know Hillary Clinton was big in the Obama administration. That's what was behind the disastrous invasion of Libya during Obama's regime. And of course, Biden comes out. He was in his prime way back in the Reagan era. So he comes from that train of thinking, this strong U.S. Okay, what else do we have other than blowing people up in foreign lands? So here we have, I wanted some way to gripe about something. Here's a Rogan Spotify deal up to worth $250 million. So, with my channel, I try to add commentary and context to politics, show what the news is presenting us, maybe some of the bias, some of the trends that where the news media, both at the right and left, goes into damage control for their people. And so I wanted to get to a point to develop this channel to where I could promote it a little bit, grow it a little bit. So I've been trying to run ads, but all my ads for this channel are rejected by Google, the owner of YouTube, because they say my YouTube videos are an election ad, which they're not. Now, maybe I assume all of this is done through some sort of AI, automatic parsing of the information of a dialogue in this, but it is funny how the Google search engine has changed to all of these very doctrinaire results. It's all sponsored results by big companies, and all the links in the first few pages are, for any subject, are stuff from CNN, BBC, Fox News, ABC, CBS, again, these are articles that just say we bombed somebody. So for me, I find it funny that even though I'm trying to add some context to the news to make it clearer, the very organization that's kind of pushing big companies on its search engine that give the bland news without context, I'm prevented from really commenting on that. It seems to be an intermeshing of giant companies just to balderize the content of the news. So today I'm a little bit bummed that I just cannot get any ad going to promote this channel. So hey, if you would like, subscribe, I don't know, maybe tweet about it. But I think especially in this year, this is a key year in history, maybe for the U.S. It's important to understand what's behind the news rather than just the facts. And I think you could see that from the stuff I've said in this video already. So that's my gripe today. And see, I'm all in black today because of it, with the red lights on because of the bombing. This is our war room setting today. Various stuff about politics. Again, we look at a site like Drudge because they are serving us certain headlines that have certain meanings to them that are very influential to the public, so that they are necessary to be contextualized. Taylor Swift, Brad Pitt. Maybe I don't need to add anything to that. Had an alarm go off. El Salvador, rabbi buys Pornhub. There's a clickbaity one. Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is part, even though the Federal Reserve is nonpartisan, supposedly not connected to politics, it has been set up this year to really make sure that the government is not will not experience the nation will not experience a recession. Okay, and this is a big issue, a key issue. I don't think I've seen it written up in these terms. I've said it many times on this channel. Inflation has fallen. Why are groceries still so expensive? This is part of, anytime you hear the young people abandoning Biden or people upset about the economy, and then the media chiming in to say, oh, you're all mistaken. It's called the vibe economy. You're just confused. It's all great. I would bring up and I would say it's groceries. Normal people see the grocery prices, and that's an issue. And this is going to be an issue for Biden this year, to see what they can do about the grocery prices elevated due to labor shortages tied to the pandemic, ongoing supply chain disruptions, drought, blah, 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 beyond the administration's control. However, I was just fascinated to see this issue, which I had talked about a lot, suddenly come up in the news. This is why all the average people, who are all mistaken about how great things are now, still are upset about the economy. Inflation for regular everyday items. Connecticut becomes the first state to wipe out medical debt. Sure would be nice, wouldn't it? The very difficult thing about living in the U.S., how expensive things can be medical-wise. I think that's about it for today. I think on a day when the U.S. is attacking other countries overseas, justified or not, that can probably take up most of our attentions. And I hope that what I tried to explain about a little bit of the context was informative. And I wrote a novel. Young people find their dreams and failures in Bangkok, and then go on to the furthest places in search of something the modern world can no longer give. This is the story of There Are Still Unknown Places, my new novel on sale at Asia Books and on Kindle ebook. It's a tale for a new generation, disillusioned by the promises of the world, wanting to search for their destinies in far-off places. And that's my book. It keys in on some of the themes that I talk about on the show here. Younger people being disillusioned with the promises of the world, and the desire for people, I think, that's growing to go out into the world, to the furthest places, and all people, foreigners, locals, who see the world changing in scary ways. So I think we need context and commentary more than ever this year. And always here, for some reason, we always look at these Art of War playing cards with a little axiom from our Chinese friend from a millennia ago. And today's is, allow your adversary no sanctuary. Strategy, threaten your adversary everywhere and all the time. Basis, the presence of a constant threat impedes your adversary's preparations and recovery. So we got to think about how you apply this to your personal or business life. My first thought, and I pick these off, I don't look at them beforehand, my thought would be you probably do not want to apply this constant fighting, constant action, relentless action. In your personal and business life, you have limited resources. So you've got to pick and choose your battles and how you battle and when you battle and how long you battle. So, and if you battle someone directly or obliquely or not at all, or just tend to avoid them. So, we got to choose our battles. And I guess today's show is all about choosing our battles. Iran is choosing its battle to try to widen the war in the Middle East and daring the U.S. to do something about it. And the Biden administration has made its move. There certainly will be lots more news in the future. Stay tuned, and I'll be offering more context and commentary. For heaven's sakes, please share my channel out there so I can get some more subscribers, because Google doesn't want people to hear some of this stuff. But anyway, all right. Bye-bye.